What's going on, guys? Zaldin Palantir. So I've seen a few comments in my previous comment sections, and I've gotten a few inbox messages concerning Game of Thrones. Mostly these messages were people asking me, am I going to review this season, or am I going to do any live reaction this season? And my answer obviously was no. What I will do though is make a video that is sort of my thoughts on this season more in depth. I also want to hear some input from you guys after hearing my reasons for not reviewing this season, whether or not you guys would want to see reviews in the next season, the final season of Game of Thrones. But the purpose of this video right now is to sort of explain why I did not review this season and why I did not do any live reaction. Now let me make one thing clear before I start though. I do not want to come off in this video as a book elitist, but I understand that a lot of people are going to view it that way, even though I definitely do not consider myself a book elitist to Game of Thrones. I actually enjoy, or I like to enjoy both the book and the show equally when they're at their best. So to explain this, I would first have to touch upon my style of reviewing. So when I started reviewing the Game of Thrones show, it was obviously when I had already read the books, which is why my reviewing style was mainly focused on making comparisons, between the book and the show, what they were doing differently, and really drawing on the things that I really, really enjoy, and the things that were sort of being expanded on or looked at more in depth in the show. And vice versa, of course, the things that weren't touched upon as much in the show that were very, very in depth in the books. Back then, when I released consistent reviews, around seasons 1 to seasons 4, the book and the show were actually very, very similar. There weren't too many differences between the two, and on top of that, the things that were different were sort of just different because they didn't explain them, not because they were actually that different. However, as of season 5, I honestly cannot even consider the Game of Thrones TV show and the Song of Ice and Fire book series to be the same series. They're just completely different, and on top of being completely different, they're not even written in the same way. And I'm going to touch upon what I mean by that a little bit later in the video. But I just want to say that the main reason I did not review the show um, around season 5 is because I really and truly don't consider it very good. I did not want to bring reviews to this channel, and be talking about something that I really was not enjoying as much as I wanted to, and as much as I think I could have if it were written a bit differently. So that's why I brought up earlier that I didn't want to come across as a book elitist, because honestly, I think that starting with season 5, and starting, just to create a little timestamp for you guys, when we got into the whole Dornish fiasco, which I'll touch upon a little bit more later, and, started to stray from George Martin's book material, that's when I realized this show has lost what made it Game of Thrones. The essence of Game of Thrones. The hyper-realism. The gritty logic. No plot armor for everyone. No character is safe. All of that was thrown out the window in Season 5 in a way that I really cannot respect the writers for. And I'm just being honest. I'm being really, really honest here. And I realized that this is something, that back in the day, I would have, sort of looked at myself and been like, what are you even saying here? But I honestly do believe that around season 5 is when it happened. Most of the things, again, that made this series what it was, were just completely tossed out. And I know that not everyone agrees with this, and I think here's where the fact that I read the books really, really, I think, fucked me over as far as enjoying the show goes. Because these plot lines that were supposed to be amazing, that were supposed to have some sort of deeper meaning, were sort of just trashed and just shit all over, to be honest, by the writers. To name a few examples, Theon's plotline, which is honestly my favorite in the books, was completely just made irrelevant, and he's now just a joke. Jon Snow, who honestly in the show probably should have died about 10 times by now, right? Has massive plot armor and has just become this superhero-esque character that I just cannot I cannot vibe with um, Jaime Targaryen, who has been, getting screwed over in the show consistently, has sort of not even had the proper redemption arc that he should have had, and is sort of still just a tool being used by Cersei. All of these characters that have deeper, more fleshed out characters in the books that are more consistent with how a normal person thinks and acts were just completely trashed. Now, I don't want to go on hating on the show for too long. I don't want to do that. And if people do actually want to see that, I'll do that in another video because that's not the purpose of this video. I think I've mostly explained why I haven't been reviewing this season. But just for one more aspect that I sort of want to touch upon, the White Walkers themselves. Now, this is one that I cannot really get over as much, right? So the White Walkers and the Whites are set up to be this force to be reckoned with in the show. Even at the start, they were set out to pretty much destroy humanity, right? And the show sort of made them into jokes. Now they keep switching between making them complete jokes and a force that everyone's afraid of. But in my mind, I cannot get out of my head. I believe it was episode 6, where the White Walkers had the whole main party completely cornered and could have killed them at any moment they wanted to. The Night's King could have thrown one of those ice spears he was saving, or Jon should have probably drowned in that lake, that frozen lake, or died of hypothermia. But there's so much shit that doesn't make sense that it blows my mind. And a lot of people that I've been talking to about the show will make excuses, for scenes like this, that where the main villains and the main threats will not act in a way that they should be. And my response to that, the whole, they didn't kill the main party because they were waiting for the dragons to arrive, or they had a plan, that, whether or not they had a plan, the reinforcements wouldn't have, not shown up if you killed them or captured them, it would be the same thing. When characters don't act how they're supposed to, or they don't act logically, I really cannot get down with it. And I would give other series a pass, but where Game of Thrones cannot get a pass is where George R.R. Martin set up his series in a very, very specific way, a very, very logical way, and things are supposed to make sense. I think that's the bottom line of Game of Thrones. Everything usually makes complete sense, and if something doesn't make sense, then there's another layer to it. And this is the meticulous writing that I really, really enjoyed at first, and it's just completely been thrown out the window. And I do understand this video is probably going to get a lot of hate, because from what I saw, people mostly enjoyed this season, and I'm happy for that. Honestly, I am. And that's, again, part of the reason why I didn't review it, is because if people are enjoying the show for what it's become, I'm completely fine with that. I'm completely and totally fine with people enjoying the show. I love the series, and I love it to get the attention I think it deserves. But personally, I cannot sit here and act like I enjoy it, or try to draw comparisons where there are, fewer and fewer comparisons to even be made. As for what I have planned in the future, I may be doing reviews for next season. We'll see how that goes. But what I want to do is sort of make a video with things I both enjoyed and didn't enjoy from the season, and kind of look more in depth at those if people are interested in that. But the main thing I want to try to do, based on, how many of you guys are interested in it, is I want to do some book reviews, some Song of Ice and Fire book reviews, mainly Dance of Dragons and Feast for Crows, as those two books are, two of my favorite in the series. But I want to review some chapters from that and sort of get some more book discussion going on. And again, I know I'm sounding like a book elitist, but I really would just prefer to go over things I enjoy and draw, maybe some comparisons to the show, where the comparisons were, sort of dwindling with this season. So let me know what you guys think. Like, comment, subscribe. As always, Zaladin Palantir. A pleasure.